Welcome to Commander Pop Culture, a place to gather magical information, with some laughs, might I add. Welcome to the final video of spoiler season for Wilds of Eldraine. I guess you call this
the final frontier.
Let's get right into it. The Hunson's Redemption, it's a saga. The first chapter, you make a 3/3 beast. On the second, you can use that beast as fodder or any other creature to either search for a land. It has to be a basic though, which is kind of a bummer, or a creature. Feel it, put in your hand. I like tutors that put things in your hand, and you only have to wait for one revolution of the table. And green is kind of rife with a bunch of cheap mana dorks, and in the mid to late game, they're kind of worthless to you, so maybe this is useful to you. Like I said, the worst case scenario is you just use the beast that you make with this on its first chapter. Normally, I'm all about making tutors occur the turn you play them, and I prefer 2 mana. I kind of like the saga piece. Maybe you could use that in certain kind of deck archetypes. If you are in sagas, you definitely like this. Most of the green tutors have random stipulations, with the exception of Worldly and Sylvan tutor. Most of them force you to have to only tutor for a green creature. This lets you tutor for anything. Those are significant things. And then on its final chapter, up to 2 creatures get +2/+2 and trample till end of turn. You could probably dish out a significant amount of damage with that final chapter, make people a little uncomfortable. Twinning Twins. For its instant adventure, you can flicker something, but it returns that creature to your next end step. It doesn't work like, I think it's Cloud Shift, where it leaves and comes back instantly. This one specifically says end step. You have to be kind of careful with those, especially if you're playing with stuff that also triggers on end step. A good example of that is Yorion. So say you flicker Yorion with the adventure side of Twinning Twins. Yorion specifically says at the beginning of the next end step as well. Yorion will enter, you'll have your ability to exile a bunch of things on your board, but they don't come back on your end step because the beginning has already passed. So you go into the next person's turn, and then on their end step, all your stuff would flood back in. And that's kind of the unique layers that come with end step flickering stuff that you have to be really mindful of in paper, because there's no one really dictating you. It requires someone that very experienced playing their deck and very knowledgeable of the rules. But like if you play on MTGO or Arena, you can't make those mistakes. So just be mindful. And then its creature side is it's a 4/4 with Flying Vigilance, Ward 1. This feels like a bit of a standard card. I wouldn't really play this in 100 card format. Maybe though, that instant speed, I mean, people play Cloud Shift, so why not run this card? Just because if you're already in blue and white, maybe you want that kind of effect, and just getting a creature with a decent body for a fair CMC is good enough to just throw into your commander decks. Polluted Bonds. This is a enchantment that punishes land-based strategies, because every time an opponent has a land come into play, they lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. It's really expensive to cast. That's like the only downside about this. You could get this kind of desirable effect out of Zozu, which is a 3-drop red creature, and Anka Mishra, which is a generic 2-cost artifact. The only difference is Ank and Zozu hurts yourself as well. Polluted is strictly one-sided, and Polluted is also the only one that doesn't deal damage. You can't prevent it. It's a loss of life. And then Polluted is the only one that also gains you 2 life. There are plenty of other enchantments or like triggers that occur on lands entering and you gain a life, just 1 life, but not 2. You used to play this in Karlov, the Ghost 2-drop. That's kind of the feel that you want these decks if you care about that life gain trigger. Songbird's Blessing. For 4 mana, it's a aura. Whenever enchanted creature attacks, you reveal until you reveal an aura. That's a cool enchantment we got here. So basically, it really facilitates into your game plan of playing Voltron, and you'll always have gas. As long as you make it to your attack step to declare this as an attacker, you're always going to find an aura to make matters worse for your opponents. I really like it, and it's fairly costed. If it was any cheaper, I could see this being a really expensive card. It might already be an expensive card because there's not anything that does it. This is a very unique enchantment. Lonecraft Fawn. Enters the battlefield, you could discard 1 or more lands. When you do, return up to that many target non-land permanents from your graveyard to hand. It has some risk to it though. If you value those lands in your hand, then it's like an ETB trigger that's not going to be doing much for you, but it's a solid body for 3 mana. I think this will be sitting in your hand for a good chunk of the time when you're in a game, so maybe it's not worth playing. I want to be able to play cards as soon as I have them in my hand, personally. Griffinary. This enchantment lends itself to life gain strategies. At the beginning of your end step, if you gain 3 or more life, you get a 2/2 Griffin. it's fair in that you have to make 3 life, but 3 life is much easier than, let's say, Resplendent Angel, where you're required to get 5. That's not an easy accomplishment. But the difference between Resplendent Angel and Griffinary is Resplendent can trigger on everybody's end step, while this only triggers on yours. Making bodies for gaining life is always a good deal, because if you run Soul Sisters, it kind of just feeds into itself real nicely. Intangible Virtue. It specifically is an Anthem effect for tokens and gives them Vigilance. For the low price of 2 mana, there's not a lot of Anthem effects that give boosts and stats for 2 mana. There's more than what there used to be, but this is very niche in the decks that could go into. Card of my day is definitely going to go to Songbird's Blessing. I like what it does and what it lends itself to a very kind of crowded archetype. You can only fit so many auras into your deck at this point. It's very well established, and it's hard to make arguments to make room for new cards. They have to be significant power to make it in. This one does. That is why I'm picking it. If you like Aura Voltron stuff, I highly recommend you throw this into your decks.
I have got to give me one of these!
And that is the end of Wilds of Eldraine spoilers. I hope everyone enjoyed. I had a great time. I've learned a lot. Some things that I want to do on the docket. If you stuck around, you obviously liked what you saw. I hope I can garner that subscription, because I'm only going to keep on making my channel even better. Something that I noticed when I compare myself to like something like MTG Goldfish. I don't want to say they're competition. They're my aspirations of what I want to give to all of you. I don't want to poach their subscriptions. I simply just want to share them. And they give opinions that are vastly different than my own. Not to say that what they have to offer isn't worth you hearing. I imagine they love Magic. I love Magic, so I'm not going to talk bad about them. I've been looking at analytics, and the YouTube algorithm's actually really generous. It posts my video on people's like browser. Last video I posted, I saw like 1,000 people looked at my view, and the click rate is around 4%. Out of the thousands of people, only 40 may click it. At least it's being seen, and I'm quite happy about that. Little micro victories are nice, but that just tells me something about the status of my thumbnail game. I've slightly improved with the last 2, but I need something to clearly draw the eye of someone. I don't want to make my stuff into clickbait, but something to make it a little more lavishing, like have an interest to click. So that's problem number 1 that I'm going to keep on trying to improve those stats. The other stat I'm looking at is how long do people watch my videos? The average view length is like 4 to 5 minutes. So I'm thinking that I need to do something different to keep people in here. And when I was watching MTG Goldfish and doing my homework and taking notes of like what they do and maybe why people gravitate towards their channel, you could make an argument that they've been around the block a long time and that's why people watch their stuff and subscribe. But I want to give myself an opportunity to grow. So the information I know about people watching, if I look at the statistics, I get roughly 4 to 5 times more viewers from non-subscribers. It's actually like a 75% difference. So that's a lot of viewers that I'm not getting to subscribe or like or whatever. And I clearly talked about a lot of cards and don't plug images in there. There's a particular reason why I don't do that. And it's because I only have so much time in a day. I'm a father of 2 kids, and I watch them during the week. And the only time I can make content is when they're asleep, either when they're taking a nap in the afternoon and when they're in bed at night. So time is of the essence. I'm very good with my time management, but that causes me to sacrifice the quality of content. I'm probably going to do a green screen because I don't know if people really like looking at Gears of War 3. That's a game from like over a decade ago. And kind of sprucing it up, making it a little more professional. I already bought it, so it's on its way. The other thing I want to do is I want to design an overlay. I've already got some experience messing with animation and sound design. Like the opening animation for this channel, I made that from scratch. I didn't pay someone to do that. That was all me. Same with the logo and my banner and what have you. But I have an idea. Since I can't really dedicate time to making a lot of editing stuff like Goldfish does, I'm going to make an overlay that I could just plaster over this and I guess make it a little more fun to look at and more professional versus a talking head talking to all of you. And those are my next steps for improving. It's going to be a fun ride, and I hope you're all along with me. Take care.